Yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're gonna go ahead and finish working on the DA, installing the parts that I have for it that I was able to get, and it's actually been kind of unseasonably warm the last 2 weeks here in the DMV. So today was a great day to get out. It is like almost 80 degrees in February, which is really crazy. So I'm gonna use this time wisely. Go ahead this time around, and we're gonna install the PCI front upper control arms. And just like the last video, I actually did cheat a little bit, but oh well. Um, so I already installed one of the arms, and I have the other arm here that I'm going to put on the right hand side. And get this out of there so you guys can kind of see the difference of the setup, what I was running. I'll do that in a second. Take you to the car so you can kind of see what's going on with the rear setup now. Nothing bad around. I got the tools set, jacks, the stands, both sides kind of set up already. But after installing the lower arms, the car is actually sitting a little bit lower now, and I think that's because those bushings were shot in those other lower control arms, and now this has got the correct suspension geometry. So I was looking, and I'm like, man, so I don't know if you guys can see how close it is. It's not gonna rub because of the camber that I'm running right now. That's the tire, and that's my finger, and the camber is negative. But it is sitting lower than the front, so I'm a look at this, and I'm probably gonna wind up raising the rear of the car just a tad bit, like a quarter of an inch. I don't know, you might be able to see this. I know from the last video you guys had seen how the tire looked or what have you. So that's right now, with the camber settings, and this thing's gonna need an alignment. And get around to the back of the car. You guys can see it now sitting. So, yep. And that's on both sides. So on both sides. So yeah, I said I'm probably gonna wind up raising the car up a tad bit. I got the left front control arm installed already, front control arm. And I did notice when I did that, my camber was a little bit negative, because this is like a true, those PCIs are really for like the track, but I got it just so it'd be better, adjustability, and a lot safer. You guys may not be able to see it, but that's the left rear. Now this side doesn't have a wheel spacer, 10mm spacer on it at all. The other side does, and this front wheel does, because I got these Willwood brakes. I need to run a 10mm spacer. But something I want to do in the near future as well, because this is the spacer that came off the rear, left rear, that's not back on there. You can see it's 10mm, it's nice. I forgot where I bought it from now, but it's not hub centric, so by the grace of God, you can see that this thing never egged out any holes, so it wasn't moving, but it's still not hub centered, and that's not the correct way of running something like that. So I'm gonna hunt for 4x100 hub centric wheel spacers, 10mm. I was thinking about like 12 or whatever, 12mm, but that's not gonna work. With the way the car is stance and sitting right now, I would have to raise it up a little bit more, probably about almost a half of an inch, for it to clear in the back. So I don't know. I'm gonna see how the car is actually sitting and looking. But enough talking. Let me kind of show you guys the PCI control arm. here. Kind of wish I had the factory one to show you guys. Well, yeah, I do, but it's been modified a little bit. But this is the PCI arm. These here, at first I was like really confused on what the hell to do, but and I was scared. But now I realized that these spacers aren't meant, after installing on the other side, these aren't meant to go into the they're not like tapered, kind of like it was on the GTR when I did the front inner tie rod bump steer kit. That these bushings supplied by PCI are not tapered, so that means they're not designed to go fully down into the upper knuckle. But after really looking at the design, I was like, this is a smart design, and I like the way what PCI did. This here, you can see it. That actually fits down into the tapered radius on the factory knuckle on a Honda or whatever. So that's that. These here, all over the place. These here are your adjustment bolts that you would loosen up, and you can go back and forth. I want to say it's 2.5 up to 2.5 degrees of camber, negative or positive, whatever you need. I like it because, again, this is rebuildable quality. You can see snap ring. You can replace that bearing. This is just your standard bolts that you can get anywhere. The only thing that you would need to get from them if something was to go awry would be these special spacers that they've made. And you can kind of see the taper on that. And that taper mimics the factory ball joints, right? And then here is where your two upper control arm bushing mounts go. PCI sells a full spherical setup for that as well. I didn't want to splurge and buy that, so and plus I did energy suspension some time ago, and those bushings are good. They're like still brand new because I don't drive a car every day. So yeah, those bushings are fine. They're lubed up and everything. Moving on, this is the factory arm, and you see it compared to each other. They're the same length. I know some companies have them where they are, these may be a little bit longer, or they may be a little bit shorter, but PCI has made it pretty much to the same spec. It is a little bit longer, but not much. But it's almost, like I said, it's almost the same specs as the factory arm. And that's how you get a little bit more maximum adjustability. This here is a SPC ball joint kit. This is like truly old school. The one thing, I don't want that to fall, that you'll notice is how this is sticking up. It's like an M14 bolt or whatever. But on the car, guys remember this back in the day, those would make contact with your shock mounts if you're not careful. And I actually did that on one side of my car. So the PCI sits a little bit lower in the chassis as well to kind of alleviate that from when the suspension, the arm is doing like that, traveling up and down. You won't tear up anything, especially your shock mounts, the body of the car. The other thing is it takes like a standard ball joint. And I replaced these before, and I was like really sketched out ever since then. Once I seen how freaking loose this thing got, I was not happy with that. But I knew it was modified, so I didn't like I went on a tear like some people, and make it like the end of the world type deal, because it really wasn't that. But it was just something that scared me half to death. These have been replaced. And since I don't drive a car every day, again, that's not going to be wore out. But again, it's just something that bugged me ever since then. Yep. So yeah, it just took an extended ball joint, and then it was adjustable here, if you can see where you slide. So what you would do is you would just loosen that one bolt up, and you would slide the ball joint on the knuckle this way, back or forth, whatever you need. It was effective. You just didn't have a maximum amount of adjustability with that. That's the only thing. Another thing I like about the PCI, again, is the overall thickness of the material and the metal. So you guys can see that there. See how thick that is? And look at the factory stamped steel arm. It's like double the thickness. So the PCI arms are a lot stronger as well. Kind of wish I had a mount, something where I should have set up my daggone tripod, but I didn't. Well, anyways, it's definitely a lot thicker. in a better quality piece. This is OE's factory. Um, it is what it is, and you kind of see I was maxed out on my adjustability there. Company in San Diego did the alignment some many moons ago when I lived out there and had that car. And yeah, man, they did a hell of a job. I wish I could remember the name. I got the receipt for it, but I don't know. I gotta find it. But yeah, they did a phenomenal job. They specialized in setting up track cars like Porsches, Hondas, stuff like that. And the guys really knew their stuff, and that's all they did was alignments. Other thing I like about PCI, the details of everything that these guys do. Here is the full description and everything. If you want to pause your screen and get this, you can. That's why I'm gonna stay on it for a little bit, so if you have any questions or whatever you need to do. Right, guys are awesome, and it included all the hardware, new hardware that you would need for your upper mounts. There they are, right there. Yep. So I'll go through that setup in a minute. One other thing that I'm kind of stoked about is I've been on a roll as of late, getting stuff in my favorite color. If you can tell by the GTR what my favorite color is. So got this. That's the 4-drawer. I needed it really bad. You guys should have seen what I had before then. So I was able to store a lot of stuff in this and clean up what I have. I like the height. And this is just the 4-drawer. It's not the 5-drawer. 5-drawer is a little bit taller, a little bit bigger, a little bit more expensive. But I was able to score this with a 30% off coupon from Harbor Freight like 2 months ago. I just had to wait for it to come in. So I only wound up paying like $160 with tax out the door for this. And I'm happy. It's a big upgrade, ball bearing slide drawers and everything. And the reason I brought you over is I gotta get my gun out, and I use a 21mm socket, which should be this guy. This is by far one of my better purchases as well. I have a true Ingersoll Rand gun right there from when I was out in the industry working on vehicles in the shop. But now I'm just a hobbyist, and I love my life a lot more better. So anyways, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead, get set up. I'm gonna go ahead, jack the car up, and I'll probably put that on the tripod just so you guys can see me working a little bit on that. And then once I get the other arm off and get ready for the actual install, I'll get more like in depth of what the hell is going on so you guys can kind of see as well. So sit tight. All right, guys. So I got the wheel off. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this up so you guys can kind of see what's going on, what we got to do. And actually, I had to walk away and get a 17 real quick. I walk through this with you. Turn that around. See this all that's going on. All right. So there's the arm installed. And you can see SPC right there if you guys are wondering. And there's the bushings, but you'll see all this up close. Coilovers, Willwoods. They are the 12.5 or 12.7 rotor spec. So you got to run a minimum of a 16-inch wheel. It's the tie rod. And so the bolts that you got to undo to get this thing out of the car is this, which is a 14 millimeter. You also have a 14 here. And then on the bottom of that fork, you have 17 millimeter nut and bolt back there. And if you guys are wondering what the hell is going on with my front forks, anybody that knows these cars, it's like, that doesn't look factory. It's not. It's a 2-inch MPC drop fork for EF. Make one specifically for DA, but the EF one works just fine. So I'm gonna go ahead and work on this. I might be able to set my tripod up out from a deck here. You guys can kind of see what the hell's going on, at least me working. And then you see me drop this thing down. So that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. I'll be right back. All right, guys, forgot to get these here. You need those if you got a cotter pin. And that cotter pin setup is only if you got the a factory setup. So go ahead and get these cotter pins out of here. So this cotter pin, I should say, just one. Alright, and then that top nut is a 17, not a 14. That should come down fairly easy. And that's called a castle nut, if you guys are wondering. So you break that, you get that castle nut off of that first, you can kind of leave that in place. The next thing that I like to do is take off that 14mm. So 14, and that's the top bolt on your lower or your drop on your fork, right? Then you got your 17 that you have to get loose. Now for me, that 17 always gets stuck in there, but today everything's working out. It didn't. So that's the lower bolt on your fork. And once you got that kind of loose, get that out of your way. Now what makes this a little bit harder on me is because I got these energy suspension bushings. Alright. Sometimes that upper joint will get stuck or whatever. And what you got to do is take what they call a pickle fork. This is an extended one. And just wedge that up in there and pop that joint loose. Now let's separate it. Kind of move your knuckle out of the way. And you got to get your fork out of the way, because what I got to do now is get that unbolted, and I got to get that to clear the shock tower. You'll see why in a minute. So when you're doing this job, the last thing you got to do on this generation Honda is undo your mounts, your mounting bolts there, and those are 17s. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this kind of at a reasonable height real quick. Now I got this loose. Those are the top bolts that hold the mounts on. And then you should be able to wiggle this free. It doesn't put up a fight. You gotta be careful when you're doing this. You don't want to tear anything up. Now, the one thing that you got to get clear is these are your mounts. These are your two mounts that we just undid. You got this tie bar that goes around it that kind of helps support and keep that sturdy. And this is your main pivots for your arm that's going to go up and down like this. The PCI one doesn't use this tie bar because I guess they're stiff enough they don't need it. But for the OE setup, you will. So I'm gonna go ahead and break these loose. It's just a 14mm bolt and nut that holds these in. All right, guys, I got it separated. So what I'm gonna go do now is set up real quick on this bench to give you a brief walkthrough and then just do the reversal of the install so you guys can kind of see everything. All right, guys, so once you got that loose, if you're gonna reuse your upper mounts, this is what you're left with. And you just gotta install it into the PCI arm. If you do both sides, just break it all apart and want to put it back together, that's fine. Honda saved us because, I don't know if it's going to show up on the camera, but they stamp L and R in these mounts here, so you won't confuse which side is which. So these are going to get installed just like this on the back side. Just like that. And they fit the PCI arm. So I was a little leery at first with the PCI setup because I was like, crap, I'm probably gonna have to buy the mounts. But nope, the guys over there at PCI were friendly and nice. And again, they care about the community, so they made it work with the factory setup as well. And I don't know if it shows up on the camera, but you can see these things are red. That's because they're energy suspension. It's one thing I do want to show you guys and stress, and I'm doing it also because the car will be getting, again, sold within a year or two's time, is on all my suspension hardware that's going through some type of metal bushing, a metal bolt through a metal bushing. I take anti-seize and I apply that to the shaft of this bolt so it'll never seize up. So if it's got to be serviced in the future by someone, they won't be cussed or they won't be screwed because somebody just slapped this stuff together. Now it's all rusted together. Now you got a world of hurt and a lot more money to spend. That's just something that I do. So I'll be right back. And this is what I use here, the anti-seize. Like I said, I just apply it to the shafts of the bolts. That way it doesn't screw somebody in the end. And you don't need to put a lot of it on there. You know what I mean? Just give it a good coating, of course. And I can testify that this technique works. That's why you've seen stuff on this car. It's not like I'm in a TV show where things are pre-loosened or anything like that. It's just because anti-seized everything when I was putting it together the last time. Now, one other thing, important note, on these PCI arms, your bolt goes through this way and your nut is going to be inboard. So don't screw yourself up and do it the wrong way, because these things will never go in there in the car if it's orientated wrong. What I'm doing right now is trying to line up the you can see the anti-seize poke out, but I'll clean that off. I was just trying to line up the hole. And this is PCI. I like them because they also give you new hardware, but good hardware. So these are nylon knock nuts. So this stuff, once it's tight, should never vibrate loose. And in the application with these guys, set this up for a track car, hard bushings, solid bushings, stuff like that. You know it's going to vibrate and move around a lot more than your standard car. So you got to make sure everything is properly secured. You got to. It's for safety purposes and everything. Longevity of the parts. Because sometimes what you'll notice is things that's going through holes is if the bolt is moving around or whatever, the fastener, you run the risk of egging out that hole, and then that's no good. That's just going to mess up tolerances and everything. See, the other side didn't do this, of course. It slid right in. But now that I'm trying to do this on camera, there we go. All right, so they're both in there. And like I said, when you're done what you want for your orientation, you can see the nuts on the inboard side, and these are to the outboard side. Now, the only thing I'm going to do is clean up that anti-seize off of me and off of the part. That's another thing too, like, it's a good practice to use anti-seize and all that, but what you don't want to do is just have it sloppy and all messed up and stuff like that. So I'll tighten those down, and then we'll go from there, and then we'll get ready to put this back on the car. So one little thing I want to test out real fast that bugged me, and I might wind up doing something about it on the other side as well. I'm gonna try to put this little boot on. I don't know why. I'm gonna see if it works. It may work, it may not work out. Who knows? It may work out. Look at that. Now it means I'm gonna wind up taking the other side apart to do that to it as well. It looks like it's gonna go in there just to make it look like I don't know. I probably shouldn't even do that. I'm thinking it'll keep dust and stuff out of there for maybe the next person, you know. Well, I'm gonna go to the car after I tighten these up, clean it off a little bit, and then we'll pick back up soon. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and move the camera over, show you all it's installed, and just go over the final process of the installation real quick, because it's something important. This is a bolt. This is, if you guys don't know, it's Loctite. Let me take you over to where I am. Guys, I got this set up. It's important. So the bolt I just showed you is going to go through that's that 14 millimeter bolt that's on a drop fork on the front, the top one. So this is the OE one that came out of it. The MPC arms are a lot fatter. I just realized it. I just seen it, so I'm gonna do it. So with them being a lot fatter, these bolts they go through and they thread, but they don't go all the way to the other side like it does on the factory arm. And I've always been very leery of that. And this is one of the bolts that came out of the upper control arm mount. You can see it's a little bit longer. Threads are the same length. I measured them, but like I said, it physically is a longer bolt, so it's going to go through a little bit further. And then what I like to do is I take red Loctite on any suspension piece like this that I know it may have a chance of coming loose, and I just put Loctite on those threads and I run it through. And I've already threaded it. It's the same everything. I guess I could go and find a little bit longer bolt, but this was kind of free. And I'm actually going to wind up doing this on the driver's side now as well, now that I realized that I can do that. Yep, just putting that on the threads. Always like the smell of Loctite, I don't know why. But before you apply Loctite, the other important thing is to make sure it's free of grease and dirt and all of that for it to really do its job properly. And I took a wire brush. I don't have a wire wheel, so I took a wire brush. The last important thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys real quick, I gotta take this off the mount and show it to you, is anytime you're doing suspension, you want the weight of the car on it before you tighten the bolts fully down. Of course, I don't have the weight of I couldn't physically be able to do that. So what I always do is I take a jack and put, put resistance on it. And now it's pretty much where the car would be sitting with its weight of the car on it. And I'm gonna go ahead and tighten down every bolt. The only bolt that you couldn't do that to is this one here. And then the other thing is with that, I know I talked to you guys about wanting to put this guy in there to kind of make it look OE and dust proof, but I can't because of the way that tapered spacer fits into the knuckle. It wouldn't go through there. I could modify that, maybe cut that hole a little bit bigger and then make it all work, but I didn't feel like doing that. And I remember PCI saying that these are like a sealed bearing that they use anyways, a roller bearing. So yep, so that's pretty much going to be it. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this stuff up real quick, and then I will close this video out. All right, guys, so that's going to wrap up this video for what I wanted to do with that upper arm. So that's all done. Other important thing that I kind of forgot to tell you guys is those adjustment bolts, the 4 adjustment bolts, the 2 on each side of that PCI arm. It's a 14 millimeter, and make sure you check that they're tight. And if they're not tight, go ahead and snug them up, but definitely check them. Just don't slap them on a car and go driving, because they may be loose just from assembly and stuff like that. So just like I said, just go over that before you have to take it into the alignment shop, unless you got the alignment set up and stuff at your house. It is 2023 now, and you can do that now or whatever. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll be back soon, hopefully. I don't know when, but to do the rod wire harness install and the injector install that I'm gonna have to do on the car as well, and then do some other little things that I want to touch up on this car. And hopefully, man, by I'll say May, the car will be ready to hit the streets. I can drive it for one more season, at least one more season, if not 2 more seasons, and that'll be it. And then it's really back on the grind for the GTR, getting the parts sorted and getting this thing finished, because once that thing is really sold, my sole focus will be back on the GTR. But anyways, hope you guys are enjoying this small break from the GTR content with my DA and Integra. You guys have a wonderful week, wonderful weekend. Call the people that you love close to you. Let them know that they're loved and appreciated. I love you guys. Thank you for the support, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace and blessings, y'all.